So this was an error I made in my application. I got the screen readers to read the same text twice, not exactly the same text, but the same meaning, but with different wording. So I started thinking about what could I do to make sure I didn't make this same mistake again. And for me, the answer to that was quite obvious. I wanted to test if I could make large language models detect my errors before I did let users get it. Hi, my name is Håkon. I'm a consultant at Miles and a bit above average interested in accessibility. So the first issue you have to deal with when you're making automatic tests is the setup and getting the data you need for running your tests. I started with using Playwright because that's what I was using to test my application. But soon I found some issues when the response from Playwright was different from what the screen reader was getting. So I had to start thinking about where does the screen reader get its data from? And it's from the accessibility tree. And Playwright had deprecated its access to the accessibility tree. So I had to change the tooling to get the data to Puppeteer, which is Chrome's tooling for automatic browser tests. And there it's quite easily to get the accessibility tree. So my double text problem. I got the accessibility tree and filtered out only the text for the buttons and the links and sent each one to ChatGPT and asked, is this text repeating itself? Please only answer yes or no. And it worked very well. So it caught all my errors, and on my on my negative tests, it only got one false positive that I didn't think I will have, but that ended up being a link that was really badly written. So it was, in fact, an error after all. So when this went so well, I started thinking, which other features could I test in this way? And two things come to mind. Links and images both have context that you need to understand for testing the accessibility requirements. So let's start with links. The first thing I tried was just the really easy one. Get all the links and all the URLs and just send it to ChatGPT and see what happens. That didn't work very well. When I started thinking about it a bit more, it's two different kind of issues I was wanting to look for. One is, does the link text make sense in comparison to the site it goes to? And the other one is the link text distinct enough that it makes sense compared to all the other links on the page? So I started with the first one. I started with the second one. Does the link make sense compared to the other links on the page? And that went really well too. I just filtered for all the links and removed the duplicates and sent it to ChatGPT and asked, is some of those links unclear or in comparison to each other? And asked it to answer only no if all the links was good, and yes and a reason if something was unclear. I noticed that if I asked it for a list of links, it didn't really work very well. But when you just asked it to say yes or no and give a reason, it worked very well. And the other issue, does the link text make sense compared to where it's going to? for my application, all the links are internal. So I made a function that takes the URL and just tells me a description of the page it's go to, which made the entire problem really a lot easier. So when I tuned that function a bit, and the description of the pages, and gave some context of what my application was, it worked very well. But this part was very specific for my application. So when I tried to use it on other applications, it needed quite a lot of tuning to get to work correct. But the other part, with just sending in the list of links and asking if the links make sense, are distinctive enough that you can understand where they're going, that worked very well across all the pages I tested. So that was really good. The other thing I wanted to test was images. I started with the same approach, just send the image and the alt text, and ask both if the alt text makes sense and if the image should have an alt text. And that didn't work at all. So again, I had to think about the problem. I split it up in its different pieces. For the images that had a text with it, asking ChatGPT if the alt text makes sense for the image seems to work really well. It has good understanding if both on icons and on ordinary images, if the text makes sense. But one thing it doesn't do very well is detecting if the image needs some text at all. Because it thinks that all images always needs a descriptive text. And that matches quite a lot of opinions on the internet. But I have a different opinion. It's really dependent on the context of the image and the text around it. So it mostly went well with images too. I don't have too many of them in my applications. I haven't done that much on it. And this far, I have only used ChatGPT to test. A lot of my future work on this is trying to make it a part of my build pipeline, and then I do not want it to integrate with. I do not want it to integrate over the internet to a third-party service. So I'm trying to tune a local model to do the same work, and I'm trying to learn it how to see if images need alt texts that matches my opinion about how it should be. Yeah. Thank you.